Let's talk some receivers for a second. Some of the high-profile guys I find can be a real risk when you're talking fantasy because if they get double covered, if they get taken out of the game, they're not going to have those huge stat lines. Who are some secondary receivers you think might emerge, might pop, that you have to be aware of as you're constructing your team?
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge because, when you're looking at the wide receiver position, the best thing you can do is just look at volume. You can't guarantee a guy's going to have a double-digit touchdown season outside of maybe, Devontae Adams is in that mix every year, Tyreek Hill's in that mix. But, you had a player like Adam Thielen last year who didn't have the volume he had in years past, ends up with double-digit touchdowns, but that could come down because that's such an unpredictable and not sticky stat. I'd be looking, when you look at secondary options, I get made fun of on this show all the time for bringing the name up. But like A.J. Green is somebody I'm actually paying attention to in fantasy football this year because you're on a prolific offense in Arizona. DeAndre Hopkins, gets double covered, and he's been the target hog there. And here's A.J. Green in this top 5 offense that's just going to be out there. Now, injuries, that's been a problem for him. If you want to avoid him, I get it. But I'm glancing A.J. Green's way as kind of a sneaky, really late-round pickup.
Yeah, Andy, I thought we weren't supposed to ask you about A.J. Green if I was reading Twitter properly.
Him in. That's my agenda. Yeah, I'm working him in.
Andy Holloway joining the show, Ben in for Rich on the Rich Eisen Show. Oftentimes you have to remember that even if a team is really bad, there could be some really good fantasy players on that team. So which team that we are expecting to have a poor season might actually have some good fantasy players on that team?
Oh, man. Yeah, that can be troubling. There's such a difference between the fantasy value and the NFL value on the field. I think you just want to look at teams that are going to give a high amount of volume to a certain player. Like last year, one of the players that was on a huge amount of league-winning teams was actually James Robinson on Jacksonville, a team that won one game. And it was because they handed him the ball so many times over the course of the season. So, while I'm not staring down the Jets right now as a team that's going to offer you a bunch of fantasy value coming out of the gate, but, a team like the Giants, who might not be expected to be at the very tippy top of the division, the NFC East, you still have to factor in Saquon Barkley there, and if they give him the volume that you would hope for, you look at Atlanta. Like Atlanta was at the basement of the NFC South, but the passing volume for Matt Ryan has been so consistent. So do you look at a player like, Russell Gage stepping into the target vacuum that Julio Jones has left, and you might find some value there. So, Carolina is another team that's going to be interesting, changing quarterback and, bringing in some weapons on the offensive side of the ball. So, yeah, you're looking for volume at that point as when you don't have the wins.
And Andy, just reading Twitter, is Brian Edwards really Terrell Owens and Randy Moss? Like, what is going on there? Can I spend a 8th round pick on this guy?
If there was a fantasy league that ran through training camp, I think he'd be on all the championship teams.
It's incredible.
He gets high. I mean, he dominated the hype last offseason. So, and what do you have? 15 catches during the regular season. So no, I'm not buying. We have a segment on the podcast where we say, where there's smoke, there's fire. It's all smoke to me in Oakland or in Las Vegas. And so, I'm going to wait and see if he can do it during the regular season.
Andy, we're talking about teams that are probably going to be terrible. The Dallas Cowboys come to mind, TJ Jefferson's team. Any star players on that team might have a fantasy breakout season? What do you mean?
I mean, you just need Dak to play football, right? I mean, last year it was an incredible start to that season for him and for the passing offense, and all the weapons are there. And, all of that hope gets deleted if Dak's not out there on the field. So, I think CeeDee Lamb has a monster year if Dak is back. I think Zeke bounces back to be an elite top-tier running back, but kind of important that Dak finds his way out onto the field.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.